Hey everyone, and welcome back to my Baldur's Gate Saga Completionist playthrough with SCS. And now we are in Chapter 3. And in the process of the transition, we of course got a lot of personalized experience for our party members, and as a result of which, Jaheira was able to level up, and of course, Senashira was finally able to get the 250,000 experience points required to get into Mage level 10. And now, this is the big moment for Senashira. This is finally the time where she's going to be back and basically fully operational, and she's finally going to be able to do stuff in this playthrough again. So she regains abilities from her Kensei class, gets that one additional weapon proficiency from level 6 mage that we can finally now spend on something decent. Saving throw boosts, Thaco, a lot of spells, and the 4 hit points as per level 10 mage. So we're going to put that proficiency point into short sword. It doesn't really matter all that much whether we put it into short sword or like the third point into 2 weapon proficiency would only give her 2 more Thaco with her offhand weapon, and the offhand weapon is just not a big deal in general when you're dual wielding, because only one of your attacks comes from your offhand, and if you're improved hasted, 2 of your attacks come from the offhand weapon. But, at least here when we get to specialization and then to mastery, we're going to get that Thaco and also damage bonuses to that short sword attack. So that's going to be a little better. And that's also, I'm going to short sword because that's going to be the offhand weapon of our choice. So we can already rearrange some stuff. We can get back to using warhammers, and for now we're going to use this Arbane sword in our offhand because of the nice immunities. And it's just a general nice weapon to just hold on to for some fights. And here we have the Shadow Thief Cellar Key, and we're going to investigate that soon. We got that from Galen Bale. And also why this is a big deal is that finally we're going to have a proper higher level mage. We also now have access to some, we got back our physical damage finally. So we have a nice dual wielding character with good Thaco, good damage, and also another +2 weapon at our disposal, which is going to matter in what we're about to do. And by the way, in that transition, our spells actually got reloaded, but we're not going to really talk about them until we're about to rest, which is not going to be soon, I think. It's going to take a while since for us to actually talk about spells, I think. Anyway, Jaheira also leveled up in Fighter, so she got the standard Fighter boosts, Thaco, hit points and stuff, and she also got a proficiency point. And since she's using a scimitar right now, it perhaps could seem like a good idea to boost her scimitars into, so that she gets specialization into scimitars and finally gets some bonuses for that type of weapon. But we are actually going to already start leveling her up, because it's going to take a while anyway. Leveling her up in 2-weapon style, because right now she's using a scimitar, but her weapon of choice is going to be clubs, and we are very soon going to obtain some very nice clubs for her. And the scimitar proficiency we're going to level up later after we're done with the dual wielding. Alright, so now we can proceed. We're going to proceed a little bit further with the main storyline. Now we have to check out this Shadow Thief cellar. But first on the way, we're going to first encounter Welther from the storyline with Lady Elgaya that was captured, and the bandits that we disposed of wanted a ransom for her. So I'm going to quick save here to show you the usual outcome, I guess, of what would normally happen. But as I've pointed out in the introductory video, I have a different plan for Welther and this whole questline. So anyway, the normal conversation would go like this. So of course we can collect the ransom, but it turns out that the ransom was not gold, but something else was agreed upon. So we will take that. May you rot for what you have done. Yeah, Minsk is so confused. Why didn't we just free the woman without the ransom? And Jaheira does not approve as well, and we also got -2 reputation. And it turns out that the ransom was the silver pantaloons. That's how you get them in Baldur's Gate 2 Shadows of Amn. But I am going to quick load, and we're going to... Lilarkor is pretty starved for kills. anyway, we're going to do something different. On our next killing spree, that's going to happen sometime in the future, we're going to try to do it during the night, so that we can also pickpocket the silver pantaloons from him, and then go back to Lady Elgaya and say that we've changed our minds and that she is free. And in that way, we're going to have both our silver pantaloons and our reputation untouched. Anyway, also I think I'm going to go to the Copper Coronet and recruit a character that I would like to have, and probably I actually should have done that a little bit earlier, because his comments and different interjections when it comes to quests are pretty funny, and generally there's a lot of reasons to have him, and I'm talking about Anomen, and that is going to be, believe it or not, our cleric for the playthrough. So I probably should have gotten rid of Eri sooner, but I have such a hard time getting rid of characters that I like Minsk and Eri. So I think we're going to have Eri just for a little while yet, and we're going to get Anomen, and like I said, he's going to be our cleric for the playthrough. And I said that it might be a little, surprising perhaps, because he is without a doubt the most obnoxious character in Baldur's Gate 2. And actually, when I was a kid, it took me many playthroughs to even give him a chance. Like, whenever I wanted to have him in my playthrough, I was like, alright, we're going to play some Baldur's Gate 2, and in this one, I am definitely trying out Anomen. And then, I would recruit him, and after like 15 minutes with him in the party, I would just be like, okay, I can't do this. I'm removing him and going back to Eri or Viconia as my cleric. Anyway, before we recruit him, or actually, after we recruit him, I would like to just have a general something to say about the clerics in the game in general.
Fair lady, what brings you to this cesspool of corruption?
So if we say adventure and honor, he's going to like that, and he is going to want to join us, because he is a squire, I guess, and he seeks to be knighted in the most noble order of the Radiant Heart, and I must prove my worth first. Have you need of a strong warrior, my lady? So we've already heard about this most noble order of the Radiant Heart in Baldur's Gate 1 when we met Ajantis, who was also a squire knight in this order, and this is basically an order of paladins, but not only, just basically holy knights, I guess, in general, or like honorable knights. And they actually have their headquarters here in Athkatla that we're going to visit later. And there's unfortunately no middle ground here. I would not be infinitely pleased to have him join me, but I would like that. Yeah, adventure and honor await us both. So we can of course tell him about our ultimate goal of rescuing Imoen. Truly, it sounds like a worthy cause to pursue. So she is a childhood friend. We grew up together in Candlekeep. Ah, the rescue of a childhood companion. Come then, my new friend. Let us strive to find this Imoen of yours and challenge all the dangers that bar our way. So he doesn't seem too obnoxious at first, and maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but Anomen, he's going to be pretty insufferable, at least for a while, because there's like so much to tell about him. First of all, he is the only like female romance option, so we're going to turn him down because I'm not going to engage in any of that kind of stuff. Also, because of the TOB style companions component, we can level him up ourselves, and he starts out with a pretty good amount of experience. He actually has the most experience of us all. Like, we got this high level version because I think his previous version is only like 220,000 experience I think, when he's like a level 9 cleric. But yeah, we in total have over 500,000, so I guess that qualifies for getting this version of him with the level 11 cleric I think he's going to be. But anyway, so he's a fighter cleric, and before we inspect him further, just a general thought about different clerics in the game. There are 3, Eri, Anomen, and Viconia, and I really like that choice. Because all of these clerics are completely different from one another, but they are all very viable to fill in that cleric spot, but just in completely different ways. And that's what I like about that choice, that it's very influential, not only when it comes to the cleric themselves, but also for your whole party composition. So for example, Anomen is this perfect example of a frontliner cleric, just like Yeslik was in Baldur's Gate 1. where he's going to be one of our frontline guys that is going to utilize the self-buff spells of a cleric. And that influences not only the approach, to the cleric itself, that he's going to use a different selection of spells than Eri, for example, or Viconia, but also, the rest of our party. We don't need another frontliner. He's going to fill in that spot. So that means that perhaps we can, if going for that kind of normal balanced party, that is, we can get maybe some kind of a ranged character in his spot, or, not in his spot, but in our party. Having that cleric spot already secured, I guess, we can go for another mage maybe, or some kind of a ranged character. Whereas if going for someone like Eri or Viconia, those are basically clerics that are going to be standing in the back, and you are going to want to probably, have some other frontliner then in your party. And also the approach is going to be different to like different encounters, because Eri is unique, of course, in the fact that she's a cleric mage, and that's a completely different class. She can put like cleric spells into mage sequencers and stuff like that, but she is a multi-class, so she is never going to progress as quickly or as far in cleric as Anomen or Viconia. So Viconia, for example, is a pure class cleric, and she actually has 18 wisdom, so she has the most cleric spells at her disposal, I guess, and she's going to be progressing quickly in cleric. So she's going to be a different kind of backline cleric from Eri, because Eri has mage spells, and she can be that support kind of mage as well. Whereas Anomen, of course, is that frontliner cleric, and he's going to also progress in cleric quickly, but utilize a different set of spells generally, or focus on like different type of spells. So that is such a cool choice. I love it in Baldur's Gate 2, where you have these three clerics that are completely different from one another, but all of them are very viable, and they influence a lot when it comes to your party in general. But anyway, let's talk about Anomen a little bit in more detail. He has a very good kind of class composition, but he is obviously not optimized, and I think that's for purpose, or done on purpose by the developers, just not to make him too powerful. He has a lot of potential, but he also has a lot of downsides. Because if you make a type of fighter cleric yourself, a fighter cleric dual class, you can make a much better one. Anyway, so he's a dual classed fighter cleric. So he dual classed from fighter at level 7 into a cleric. And that already is kind of suboptimal, because first of all, he's just a plain old fighter, whereas when going into a cleric, it makes a lot of sense to go berserker, because he has no kit. And berserker is a really good starting class for a cleric, because that berserker rage ability is of course fantastic, and it stays relevant for a cleric throughout the whole game. Basically, it's very useful for a cleric, because clerics don't generally have the self protections that mages have, for example. They have some other ways of protecting themselves, like they have chaotic commands, for example, to protect themselves from like mind affecting spells, and then later on they get Shield of the Archons, but it's not anything close to what a mage has, for example, where that Berserker Rage's usefulness for a mage is limited after you regain your if you finish your dual class. But for a cleric, Berserker is just a fantastic starting class. Also level 7 instead of level 9, so it's nice. Level 7, he got that half of an attack from fighter, and he got most of the fighter HP, but you can go 2 more levels for more fighter HP and slightly better taco and whatnot. And now his attributes. So his strength is actually very nice. It's not going to need any type of boosting for a while. Plus he's a cleric, so he has plenty of strength boosts at his disposal. His dexterity is definitely his weakness. We're not going to have the gloves of dexterity for a while, so we're going to have to remember that his armor class is not going to be as good as it can be. His constitution is decent. His intelligence, unfortunately, does not allow him to withstand 2 hits from mind flayers, which is very unfortunate. But it is enough to use wands and scrolls. His wisdom is going to get better. Right now it's pretty bad. And his charisma doesn't matter. Right now he's lawful neutral. And basically, he has a pretty involved quest chain, at the end of which he is always going to change his alignment. And depending on how we guide him through that quest chain, how we advise him, I guess. Because, like he said, he wants to get knighted in that Order of the Radiant Heart and become kind of like a proper knight. And depending on how we... and he has to pass a test for that. And depending on how we do his quest line, he's either going to pass or fail that test. And that's going to influence his alignment change and also his attributes. So in our case, his wisdom actually is going to raise to 16 and is going to basically become the standard for recruitable clerics, and it's going to be decent. So anyway, let's level him up. He gets some boosts from, yeah, he's level 11 now. And I recruited him because he is a pretty funny dude. Basically, like, whenever he's right here at the lawful neutral stage, pretty much like any advice and any interjection he's going to give is like always, pretty much always the wrong thing to do. And as you will see, he will see things very much in black and white. And he's going to try to do the good thing, but right now he is going to have some like internal struggles. Some internal struggles and like anger management problems, pretty much. And it's going to be kind of understandable once we get to know him better.
Speak quickly and precisely.
Anyway, I also mentioned that he's a romance for females, and the little unfortunate thing when it comes to like turning down the different romance options is that you don't really have a nice way of telling them that, you know, you're not interested in them, I guess, and you don't want to pursue the romance. It's always like such a rude response, like when it comes to being a male character and having the females vie for your attention, I guess.
Yes?
And if you want to end the romance, you always have to say something like, "Stop bothering me, you wench," instead of just, you know, having like a softer way to inform them that you don't want to engage in the romance. Also, Anomen has this special shield, which is pretty decent for the beginning, and even for later to hold on because of these nice resistances. It's basically like a medium shield +1 with these resistances, and also 3 casts of protection from normal missiles, but doesn't really matter. Oh, and by the way, that reminds me, another big weakness of his are his proficiency points. They are a complete horrible mess. Because first of all, he has 2 points in spear that he can't even use as a cleric, but that is at least referenced in one of his banters, I think with Yoshimo, where and this basically harkens back to his day as a fighter only. So he basically describes an adventure he was on, leading a pack of squires or whatever, and killing a wyvern with a spear. So when he was a fighter, I guess he, trained in spears. So that at least, makes some kind of role-playing sense, but of course it's completely useless for him right now. Then he has, 2 points in maces, which are supposed to be kind of his main weapon. 2 points in slings, which are okay, I guess. 2 points in sword and shield style, which is basically a complete waste. And then 1 point in warhammers, which is a complete waste in our case. And 1 point in quarterstaff, which is another complete waste, in my opinion. So warhammers, we already have a warhammer specialist in Senashira, but also I don't really like warhammers on clerics because you ultimately end up with Crom Fair, which gives you a static 25 strength, and that's kind of a waste on a cleric because clerics have so many ways through their spells to buff up their strength to that kind of a level that it's kind of a waste. And with Anomen, you always stand in front of a pretty difficult choice, and that is either to commit to the maces and get to Grand Mastery in maces, which is the most leveled up weapon of his. And by the way, that's one of the advantages of dual classing from a fighter, and he's nowhere near to Grand Mastery in any of his weapons. That's already a kind of a very suboptimal thing, but the most advanced weapon that makes sense for him is the mace. And the choice is either to level up mace or start something else from scratch, basically. And that's a difficult choice because maces are really a lacking type of weapon in Baldur's Gate 2, unless you want to do Watcher's Keep, but we are not going to do Watcher's Keep until Throne of Baal, and I'm going to elaborate on that later. But on level 4 of Watcher's Keep you can get a really nice mace called Stormstar, but in Shadows of Amn in general there's no good mace basically. There's one in the main storyline a little bit later, a +3 mace, but it's very unimpressive.
This will not take long.
And yeah, it's just either that, going with maces, which kind of suck, or having to level something from scratch. And I think what I'm going to allow myself to do, I think in between episodes I'm going to edit him a little bit. Because normally I think I would still go with warhammers if we didn't have Senashira, focusing on warhammers. And I'm just going to, I think this is going to be the only kind of edit that I allow myself to do. But this is driving me crazy, these proficiency points. So what I think I'm going to do is put, instead of this 1 point in Warhammer, I'm going to give him 1 point in flails, because that's the kind of weapon I will want to level up. I'm not going to level up maces. I'm going to start out something new for him. And I'm going to put this 1 quarterstaff point into 1 point in dual wielding. And you know, of course, the idea of behind that is that eventually I want him to dual wield flails. But this is still, even with those 2 points changed, it's still going to take a long while for him to be able to do that, because clerics get a proficiency point every 4 levels. So he's going to get one at level 12, but then it's going to be level 16, which would be the earliest point that he would be able to have 2 points in dual wielding then, and 2 points in flails. And I don't think I'm even going to dual wield him at that point. We'll see how it all works out. But you know, it's still going to take him a long way, basically like most of the game, for him to actually get Grand Mastery in flails. So we're still in for a long ride when it comes to leveling his proficiencies up in a proper way. But I think I'm just going to do a little change like that. And also, I think I might do a little change to his visuals, because he is using the fighter model, and I think I might change him to a cleric model, maybe, in between episodes. So the cleric model, when we put a oh, we were at 6. When we put a heavy armor on him, there's going to be a difference if we change him to a cleric model, because he's going to be a little bit more like skinnier, I guess, less muscular than a fighter, and it's going to be, you know, a little different than, you know, if we put Minsk and him together. Right now they look exactly the same, but with a cleric model he's going to be slightly different, and I think that's pretty unique in the game, so I might go for that. I don't know. And also another last thing before we progress, actually, is that in the enhanced edition, actually, there is always, in the game files, there are always 2 versions of pretty much like any unique shield. And there's always one with the Baldur's Gate 2 look, and also a version with the Baldur's Gate 1 look. So I think I might change this shield to a Baldur's Gate 1 look, because I like the Baldur's Gate 1 shields way more than these like Baldur's Gate 2 looking ones. And actually, some shields already use the Baldur's Gate 1 look. For example, the Shield of Harmony that we're going to get soon already uses the small shield look from Baldur's Gate 1, which I like way better. Anyway, let's finally get going. Oh, here's a funny guy. You there, I know you. You own Ebron money. Pay me now. And if you say like, "Be gone, fool," you know, the conversation is going to end at that. But actually, let's go. Let's have it going for a little while, because it's pretty funny. I don't owe you any money, friend. You don't? Could you give me some anyway? I'm awfully short. And why do you need money? A dragon attacked my ship. Or was it a wyvern? Or maybe it was a giant turtle. Or a turtle dragon? Yes, that's it. So let's give him 1 gold. Well, that'll pay off part of your debt. I'll take this as down payment. Anyway, I think we have a very good chance of one of these events to trigger. Oh yeah, it just did. So yeah, those are the different encounters that I talked about happening during the night with the Shadow Thieves. These 3 Shadow Thieves here fighting a vampire lady called Hareshan, which, if you remember from Baldur's Gate 1 Cloakwood Mines, that was that pretty nasty enchantress, that pretty difficult encounter on level 2 of the Cloakwood Mines. So I'm not sure if this is supposed to be the same character that has become a vampire since, or just, you know, another reusage of a name. But anyway, so those are these encounters, and if we were in Chapter 2, we would be able to... Alright, let's back up a bit. Always getting ahead of myself. Anyway, I'm going to let this encounter progress on its own, so that all of these Shadow Thieves are going to die. If we attacked the vampire and helped them right away, some of them would survive, and then they would have a little like thank you conversation in which they would confirm what we could basically figure out by now by ourselves, by just putting 2 and 2 together, that this whole rival guild that they're fighting with is a vampire guild. These vampires are actually parts of that other rival guild that fights with the Shadow Thieves. And that's why these encounters happen at night, and that's why Bodhi wanted us to meet her at the Graveyard District at night, because they are a guild of vampires. So they would just confirm that you know, that's who they are. But if we actually let this encounter progress on its own, the vampire is going to handily deal with the Shadow Thieves, and not only are we going to get their loot, which is pretty useful, but also I'm going to show you that now in Chapter 3, the conversation she's going to initiate, because right now she's neutral, the conversation, there is no way to resolve it peacefully anymore. If it was chapter 2, we would still have the option of saying that, you know, we haven't chosen our allegiance yet, we want to stay out of this, and she would just leave. But now we will not have such an option, and we will have to fight her. So what I'm going to do is leave most of my characters at a distance. We've also recruited Anomen, because I think he is likely to have a spell I want. Yeah, he has one of these negative plane protections, but also because of our spells getting reloaded. Yeah, Ari also has one. So anyway, it doesn't really matter. His choices are pretty suboptimal. He's very focused on healing, and there's like so much good stuff that he could have had. Like, of course, Chaotic Commands is going to be an important spell that he is going to memorize, and also something like Righteous Magic. It would be useless for Elri or Viconia, but it's a very nice spell for him. That's going to give him more hit points, more strength, and also make him do maximum damage with every hit, and it actually lasts for a while. So this spell actually is one of the reasons why Cleric Thief is a really nice backstabbing class, because you can you know, use all of the Cleric self buffs, including this maximum damage one, and do something akin to the Kai backstabs that we're going to be able to do as a Kensai Thief. Yeah, his selection, like, we can work with that, but yeah, it could have been better. Anyway, we're going to wait with just Senashira in front. Oh, and we're also going to give these +2 arrows to Minsk so that he can add some damage from afar. And I think we're going to use this Wand of Fire on Eri to add some magical damage. Because Cowled Wizards apparently don't care if you use wands outdoors. It's only if you cast memorized spells, then they are against that. Anyway, so let her kill them. As you can see, she drains levels, and that's basically the thing about vampires. The two primary things you have to protect yourself against is level drain and their domination spells, but I think she's like a very basic kind of entry level encounter, so I don't think she even has any abilities like that. But generally you have to like protect yourself against domination and level drain, and you're pretty much good. Although SCS buffs up vampires quite a bit, and they have other abilities, like they can summon some stuff, and they're generally like more dangerous, but this shouldn't be a problem. Alright, and now let's start casting our negative plane protection on Senashira.
Let me have a taste.
Yeah, now the thing she says is different, but because we've already joined up with the Shadow Thieves. And yeah, you are the enemy of those that would help me. Yeah, you have chosen the weaker allies. We will all fall in the end. So now she just immediately attacks. There is no way to back out of this peacefully. So, okay. Also, another thing about the vampires is that you need +2 weapons to hurt them. That's why I keep like Senashira and everyone back, because only Senashira is going to be protected by that negative plane protection. But the bad thing about this buff is that it only lasts for a very short duration. It's only 5 rounds, so we need to, you know, really get going when it comes to killing this vampire quickly. So now Senashira, of course, is immune to level drain, and we're going to add some range damage with Minsk. And do we have actually +2 bullets? We have +2 bullets, so actually even Jaheira can add some damage. And that's going to be it. We don't want to get close to this vampire with anyone else, because she would immediately switch to someone that's not protected from level drain, or at least has a chance to do so, and I don't want to get level drained on anyone.
What can I'll do.
And Harry might actually use a little Aganazar Scorcher on her.
Yes, it will be done.
Alright, and we should be able to deal with her in those 5 rounds. Alright, nice. Oh, and she turns into that gaseous form. I think I'm going to change my pronunciation, because apparently gaseous and gaseous are both correct, like American pronunciations. I actually double checked that up, and apparently the British pronunciation is gaseous. Just something I'm not going to say, but I think gaseous should be the way to go. Alright, so they will have some potions of invisibility, some jewelry, and there's also going to be a nice note. No, also spell scrolls. This one always dies first, so even if you help them, you pretty much always get the Spell Thrust and Stone Skin, very useful spells. But yeah, there should be a note on this one. Oh, and contingency spell as well. Almost forgot about that. Yeah, some jewelry and this note. from the Shadow Thieves to its members, the Shadow Council itself decrees that all chapters should be on their guard against the upstart Assassins Guild usurping our membership. The lure of coin is naught but bait, and it is suspected that the end of those that have defected has been most bloody. No guild can rival the Shadow Thieves, and blah blah blah.
Yes?
Of course, as always, feel free to pause and read everything in detail for yourself. But the point is that actually that is the case. Okay, some invisible muggers try to attack Senashira. We need to heal up, and I don't really want to use any spells in order to attract the attention of the cowled wizards. So I think we're just going to have to withstand these backstabs, but with our HP now, they shouldn't be too dangerous, these muggers, but let's actually get some other characters in there so that we can already react very quickly.
With all speed, comrade.
And anyway, the thing I wanted to continue about when it comes to this note is that even Bodhi, when we met her at the graveyard, she said something to that effect, that a lot of the Shadow Thieves are going to join our ranks, and that's basically it, that the other guild tries to actually lure the Shadow Thieves to join them. And since we now know that they are vampires, then we know that you know, it's probably not they're not going to receive that coin as the note says, but they're probably going to be turned into vampires once they, like, you know, agree to be lured into their headquarters and whatnot. One of them attacked or targeted the Kirinai, so we'll see if they go through with it. Yeah, triple backstabs. Right now they're not too dangerous. These numbers are not too high, but let's be careful. Anyone else?
Yes?
Yep.
What is it?
And keeps re-stealthing. Okay, and there's the fourth one. Okay, re-stealthing, and I need to use this potion
Yes? Without hesitation.
just so that... Oh, and let's keep airy.
What is it? Shall be done.
This is actually ×4 backstab from this guy. 27 damage.
With vengeance.
Alright.
Yes, this will not take long. What is it? If it must be done.
Alright, and that's it. Sometimes, you know, these guys appear, especially during the night. Let's just use quick loot here. Now, some decent potions from that one guy.
Speak.
Alright, and now we can finally go into the Shadow Thieves building and actually get the items that we paid for and progress the main storyline a little bit. And now that we have the key, we can actually go through this passage here, this secret passage, and progress onto this lower level of the Shadow Thieves headquarters. And there's quite a few people to talk to, and quite a bit of it to explore, and I think we're going to do that in the next episode. So I thank you for watching this one. I hope you enjoyed it, and also fulfilling a request here from a certain very dear website to me. Pozdro I poćwiczcie, bracia Networksianie. Alright, take care. See you next time.